In the case of the first Godzilla, two individuals share the task of portraying the monster. First was Haruo Nakajima, perhaps the most famous of all suit actors. Born in 1929, Nakajima was too young to see active duty during World War II despite joining the Navy, and with work scarce in post-war Japan, he attended acting school and entered Toho in 1950. Strong, agile, and willing to take on any role offered to him, Nakajima worked as an action actor and stuntman. After playing one of the bandits in Seven Samurai, he was offered the job to play Godzilla. Since the monster had not yet been designed, all he knew was that he would be acting in a suit. In his mind, this would be as simple as wearing a skin and a mask, and at one point before the basic design of the beast was revealed, he imagined Godzilla would be something along the lines of a giant frog. He could not have imagined anything like a stiff, 200-pound dinosaur-shaped sweatbox with virtually no visibility. To prepare for the film, Eiji Tsuburaya showed Nakajima his personal print of King Kong for inspiration, and Nakajima took the role seriously enough to take his lunch to the zoo each day so that he could study the movements of large creatures such as bears and lions. Once the final design was revealed to him, Nakajima's guiding philosophy was that Godzilla was a dinosaur, and as such, he should never move like a human. When playing Godzilla, he tried to make his arms look shorter by holding them close to his body. In order to create the image of a huge creature, filming was often done at high camera speeds. By overcranking the camera and then playing the film back at normal speed, the movement would become smoother and slower, giving an impression of great mass to the monsters. But Nakajima realized that to act at normal speed would make his motion look unnaturally slow, so he would have to walk and perform at a quicker than normal pace, sometimes as fast as 3 times the pace at which the monster would appear to be moving. On the set, the action might look peculiar, but on film it looked realistic. It is perhaps in this regard that Nakajima has outshined other suit actors, as he mastered this particular technique better than anyone. Haruo Nakajima was perhaps the perfect person to take on the role of Godzilla. His strength and stamina were his greatest assets, and he brought an intensity and personality to his acting that has never been matched. As a suit actor, it was well established from the first point that his face would not ever be seen on screen, and early in his career, Toho preferred to keep the identity of its suit actors secret. But this was never a problem for him. His idea was that since he was being paid and because his performance was prominently displayed on screen, that his character was the real star of his films, so he had no reason to complain. Since he was the first and most prolific suit actor, Eiji Tsuburaya quickly came to depend on him to choreograph monster battles and in general supervise the movements of other suit actors. Typically, Nakajima would practice his movements just for Eiji Tsuburaya, gaining the director's approval before a scene would be shot. After his experience in the first Godzilla, Nakajima kept close contact with the suit makers. Not only did he want to assure that the suits were made to fit him correctly, but he would also put the suits through various actions to determine weak points or modifications needed in order to allow him to do certain actions. His reputation among the staff and his leadership position on the set were more than enough compensation for his anonymity with the public, which for him was the ideal combination. While Haruo Nakajima would continue to portray Godzilla until his retirement in 1972, he also took on the role of many other creatures during his career, such as Rodan, Varan, Mogura, King Kong, Gyla, and the Griffin in Latitude Zero. He also did 10 episodes of Ultraman, and whenever there was a publicity event that required an appearance by a suit, he always insisted on doing the job himself. No matter what he was asked to do in the course of filming, Nakajima would never refuse as a matter of professional pride. He felt that if he were to hesitate to do anything at all which a director asked for, that it would show that he was no longer capable of doing the job. So whether he was being asked to be buried alive under the set as Baragon, to have explosives detonated beneath his private parts in Varan, to allow fire to explode in his face in Godzilla vs. the Thing, having explosive charges set all over his neck and shoulders in War of the Gargantuas, or to be submerged in a water tank inside of 200-plus pounds of latex and urethane foam where he could easily have drowned, it was just another day at the office for Nakajima. He never complained, and in the rare case he was injured, such as in the Varan incident, he made sure that no one knew about it. When he plunged into the water tank as Rodan when the wire supporting him during flight broke, he acted as if it was nothing. He wanted to create the impression to the staff that he was invincible and therefore indispensable. In fact, Nakajima recalls that in the early 60s, he received an offer to do suit work in America, but Eiji Tsuburaya asked him not to go, saying that Toho could not make movies without him. Aside from his pioneering work in the first Godzilla, Nakajima considered his portrayal of Gaila, the Green Gargantua in War of the Gargantuas, as his best work. Gaila was his only suit role in which his own eyes could be seen, allowing him a chance to do more than just physical acting. But nothing lasts forever. In 1972, after Eiji Tsuburaya had passed away and the Japanese film industry was in upheaval due to mass layoffs, Nakajima lost the enthusiasm he had for the job and reluctantly retired. Despite the fact that he physically thought he could go on until he was 50, he just lost his desire to continue. While many sources give Nakajima sole credit for playing the part of Godzilla, in the first film he shared that honor with Katsumi Tezuka, a former professional baseball player from Kyoto and nearly 20 years Nakajima's senior. Tezuka was well liked by film crews because of his open and outgoing manner, and he parlayed his seniority at Toho into a share of the role. Haruo Nakajima has always contended that Tezuka was physically unable to deal with the rigors of moving the original Godzilla suit, so that his was the only performance that wound up on screen. According to Nakajima, Tezuka collapsed in the suit and injured himself on the first day of filming the destruction of the Diet Building, so Nakajima did everything which appeared on film. Unfortunately, Tezuka never really had his chance to offer his side of the story. Nakajima has characterized Tezuka more as his assistant than apprentice, and certainly there is much photographic evidence to support the fact, as Tezuka is often seen either helping Nakajima into the suit, dressing the costume, or offering Nakajima refreshment in between takes. But through 1965, Tezuka continued to receive screen credit as a suit actor. While Tezuka's involvement in Godzilla may have been limited, he certainly was up to the task of playing the physical role of Anguillus in Godzilla Raids Again, wrestling with and eventually losing to Nakajima. To what extent Tezuka's work has appeared on screen in subsequent films is open to question, but photos show him inside of the Meganeuron from Rodan, Varan, Mothra, and Godzilla from King Kong vs. Godzilla, and he also has credits for playing a Mushroom Man in Matango and Magma from Gorath, among other roles. So while he may never have gained any notoriety and specific scenes cannot be attributed to him, there is no doubt that his work has still appeared on film through Ghidra the Three-Headed Monster. While Nakajima and Tezuka may have been the first suit actors, there were several others who played major roles in Toho's golden era of science fiction. Shoichi Solomon Hirose, a muscular and physically imposing action actor, played two of Godzilla's toughest opponents, King Kong and King Ghidorah. Hirose was actually in line to share the role of Godzilla in the first film, but he admitted to being less than enthusiastic to take the part at first. Being reputed as the strongest man on the Toho lot and adept at martial arts, he was the ideal choice to play King Kong, which would explain why the fighting in that film was so physical and resembled jiu-jitsu. While Nakajima could enter and leave Godzilla easily because of the fasteners which sealed him inside, the King Kong suit had to be sewn together after Hirose entered, so he tended to stay inside the suit for long stretches, taxing even his endurance. When his suit once caught fire, he was helpless since there was no way to extricate him easily. Hirose did get a chance to show off his legendary strength when Kong flipped not an empty Godzilla suit, but one with Nakajima inside of it. Playing King Ghidorah was perhaps his least satisfying but most strenuous role. Without any appendages to control and wireworks making the head and wings move, his performance was limited to just supporting the enormous bulk of the suit, holding on to a metal bar in the suit's chest cavity to hide his arms. Turning King Ghidorah's body even a little bit would often ruin a shot as the wires would tangle up with the heads. So after Monster Zero, Hirose begged out of suit acting, claiming to Tsuburaya that he had a role where he could finally show his face on camera. Ironically, the part he took required him to fight with a kendo mask on, so his face never did wind up being seen after all. Hirose was replaced by Hiroshi Sakita, the suit actor which Nakajima favored most as a partner. Sakita took the role of Nakajima's opponents during the late 60s, donning costumes for Ebirah, Gorosaurus, Sanda, the brown gargantua, Anguillus, and Gabara. Sakita was athletic and had polished karate skills, so he and Nakajima were able to choreograph more intricate battles, their greatest being the struggle between Sanda and Gaila. Sakita also played Godzilla in Son of Godzilla. Because Godzilla was built to be much taller than usual in this film to make more of a contrast with Minya, the suit was too big for Nakajima to wear. Former professional baseball player Seiji Onaka took the role of Godzilla due to his height, but during production, he broke his hand, so Sakita was pressed into service to finish the film. To portray Minya, the infant son of Godzilla, Toho needed someone of diminutive size, yet possessed of sufficient physical stamina to withstand the rigors of suit acting. So they turned to a professional wrestler who went by the name of Marchand the Dwarf. One of the most unlikely of Toho's suit actors from its golden age, Marchand was really a breed apart. Not an actor by training, though something can be said for the acting ability of pro wrestlers, Marchand gave Minya probably the most human personality of any Toho monster, which was very much in keeping with the reason for the character's creation. After Tsuburai's passing, Sakita quit suit acting, so when Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster went before the camera in 1971, a new face entered the ring to play opposite Haruo Nakajima. That man was Kengo Nakayama, a young and energetic stunt actor whose career mirrored that of Haruo Nakajima when he first started. Nakayama really had no idea what he was getting himself into when he agreed to portray Hedorah. Despite his demonstrative and violent physical acting, everything he tried to do was muted beneath more than 150 kilograms of monster costume. Haruo Nakajima did his best to mentor the young actor and guide him through the process, but the enormous bulk of this costume made it impossible to express almost anything he was trying to do. Nevertheless, Nakayama enjoyed all the attention the role brought to him, and he developed a great admiration for special effects director Teruyushi Nakano, so when he got the chance the next year to oppose Godzilla again as Gigan, he gladly accepted. This also began his love-hate relationship with suitmaker Nobuyuki Yasumaru. The suitmaker concentrated so much on the form of his creations, almost ignoring the practical aspects of operating the suit, so he and Nakayama often clashed. For example, Gigan's claws were originally solid fiberglass, making them so heavy as to be virtually impossible to lift and control, and only when Nakano would intervene would Yasumaru relent and modify his suits. If you watch Godzilla vs. Gigan carefully, you can see that Nakajima and Nakayama perform perhaps the most precisely choreographed monster battles in almost any of the old films. But while this would be the promising combination's last chance to work together, Nakayama would years later take up the baton from Nakajima and assume the role of Godzilla. Changing his name by that time to Ken Satsuma, he portrayed Godzilla from The Monster's Return in 1984 until Godzilla's death in 1995. Nakayama also reprised his role as Gigan in 1973's Godzilla vs. Megalon. But from that point forward, with the film industry in steady decline and the studio releasing all of their actors from contract, new suit actors were brought in for each of the remaining films until the end of Toho's original monster film series in 1975.